Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to our channel. We're so excited to have you here for another segment with us. Do you believe in magic? Black girl magic, that is. I'm Dr. Tuesday Mahoney, a Black literacy author, as well as an HBCU educator, and I'm excited to serve as a corporate advisor for Black Girl Magic Museum. And of course, we're here with the visionary and the founder of Black Girl Magic Museum, Ms. Dominque Hamilton. How are you today, Dominique?
Good. How are you today, Dr. Tuesday?
I'm doing excellent. So excited to have you today as we continue this amazing docuseries entitled Black Girl Magic, The Making of Magic. We know that you are opening up your third location in Arlington, Texas. So really quick, if you can just share with the audience, for those who maybe knew what Black Girl Magic really is and who it's for.
So the Black Girl Magic Museum is for Black women and girls to be able to have a space that they can have a voice and to find themselves, to experience their magic. But it's also for everyone to come and get educated on the brilliance and the history of Black women.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so once again, we're doing an amazing docuseries to help Black women in entrepreneurship and really just everyone, right, Dominique, who want to actually take a vision and then recreate that into a service or a business to impact the community. So this is part 3 of the docuseries that you will find right here on YouTube on our channel, Black Girl Magic Museum, The Making of. And we've already completed 2 amazing sessions. The first one was the visionary, and that's where we tapped into our CEOs, the little Black girl within, and we were able to empower hopefully little Black girls and women and also just ignite the vision. And then of course, part 2 was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yes, it was so exciting.
Part 2. Partners. We had our partners on board. You got to go back and find that docuseries part 2, partnership, marriage, and business. And so we were empowering couples to let African-American couples know that you can work together in business as a couple and you can be successful building wealth for your family. Isn't that right, Dominique?
Yes, correct.
And so today we're diving into our topic, part 3, which is the product focused on entrepreneurship. So we're going to hopefully give you some wonderful tips on how to build your business out, some things that entrepreneurs need to know, how to get through the tight times, and then end up with an amazing product. So part 3, the purpose, the power of entrepreneurship. We're kicking in right now. Dominique, I just wanted to share the root of entrepreneurs. So the word entrepreneur itself was rooted in the 13th century. It's a French term, and its meaning was to do something or to undertake. And so since 1852, the term has transitioned into more of a business term under the categories of business management. So entrepreneurship, that word has been around for a while. So we just want to let you all know that that's about you taking an idea into a business. And so I'm excited because I read an article that Smith did in Forbes, and it talked about entrepreneurial spirit, the spirit of the thing. And that's what we're going to cover today, because Black Girl Magic Museum is all about the spirit of Black women and girls. So entrepreneurship spirit is the attitude and the approach to thinking that actively seeks change rather than waiting to adapt to change. And so that reminded me of something that you said, Dominique, in one of our past episodes about adapting to change. You talked about the idea of the Black Girl Magic Museum started from the climate today, the racial climate, as well as when you were during quarantine, that you were able to think about what can you do. Can you talk a little bit about how you really developed the idea of Black Girl Magic Museum in the midst of racial calamity?
Absolutely. So last year in 2020, well, I just want to rewind back a little bit. since 2017, when I stopped my nonprofit doing Desiring the Arts, I always wanted to find out how could I impact Black women and girls on a larger scale to be able to really pour those resources into them. And then when 2020 hit, I was on a political campaign in San Antonio, Texas, when we all had to go back home due to, everything that was going on. And I really was just in my room and I was like, okay, God, how can I impact? How can I turn something? And then everything what happened with Tatiana Jefferson and then Breonna Taylor really just wanted me to shift and create something. I remember being on social media and kind of speaking out about how I felt and didn't feel safe to say how I really felt. And I wanted to create a space where Black women and girls could say, if I don't, however I feel about an issue. And that's where Black Girl Magic Museum was really created, to create a playground, a space where Black women could come and just be themselves and, and find that inner girl within them.
Yes, wow, that is so powerful. And it just kind of really relates to even Sarah Phelps, who is the CEO of and founder of Flex Jobs. She stated that the entrepreneurship spirit is a way of approaching situations where you feel empowered, motivated, and having the capacity of taking things into your own hands. So that's so important. For those who want to be entrepreneurs, you do have to recognize that you're the one that has control over that particular business and that service, and you have that in your own hands. That's the difference between working for someone else and doing it for yourself. You're responsible for everything in the areas of business. So, Dominque, can you kind of speak on how important it is to really just be confident in the fact that you can take an idea and then what you need to have in order to feel like you can control your own destiny?
Absolutely. So I feel like, for one, when you have an idea, I think that we all have ideas, and being able to do market research when you get this idea to see if there's a need, a space, and a niche for it, for one, and then transitioning into how can I make this idea, this passion, a business? What steps do I need to take to transform this ideal inside of my head to paper and then to reality? So, and that's one of the things that I did with Black Girl Magic Museum. I wrote down every step, every room that I envisioned in my head. I put it on paper, and then I went and started saying, what's the history behind it? Doing the research, finding different locations and making sure that there was a market. Always, I would say, before you start your business, make sure there's a market for you to push into.
Wow. So Dominque, we're really going to dive into this thing and make it clear and plain. What you just said about writing it down, it reminded me from a spiritual standpoint. I always have to bring in a spiritual standpoint, the scripture Habakkuk 2:2, when the Lord said, write the vision and make it plain on tablets so that one who reads it may run with it. So when you're developing a business, it definitely starts with a vision. So Dominque, I consider you a entrepreneurship expert, and you have a mighty gift in the spirit of entrepreneurship. Can we talk a little bit about where did you get that spirit and that motivation to be an entrepreneur versus tackling the traditional workforce? So can we go back a little bit and see what businesses that you actually implemented, even, from the high school years, if you did anything then? Can you talk a little bit about where you got it from?
Absolutely. And the saying, in the Black community is like, I get it from my mama. I definitely
That's right.
My mom is a
Black women.
Yes, she's a baker, and she also cooks in our community in Mississippi too. Everyone just would come near and far for my mom to cook her gumbo or cook her, red beans and rice, and she would sell plates and sell food at the church and different.
Yes, let's say her name. Let's say her name so people will know this powerful Black woman in the community.
Her name is Rosie Daniels, and she actually has a business called Rosie Sweet Treats. So
wow,
very great food, great sweets and stuff like that. And I remember moving from Biloxi, Mississippi to Georgia when Hurricane Katrina hit. And I started going to this church where these ladies taught me how to make jewelry. And I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And so I started making jewelry from learning from them, selling it at the church. And then my aunts, the aunts always support everything you do. They started, it was like, wow, you're actually really good at this. We actually want to. And so that's where it really just took off. I realized that I love to talk, I love to impact, and that really spiraled. Even with the jewelry business, we started that to raise money to go to Mozambique, Africa, and then a hurricane, something impacted them there, and we just sent the money there. And I realized that I love to do business that also make impact, and that transitioned over into adulthood. When I did my first internship at Walt Disney World, I saw someone who had a concept, that had an idea, that's now the best place on earth, I believe,
Yes.
to have fun. And
The
little did
greatest
I
place on earth.
know that I would create something, try to create something similar. And so then I moved to Denver, Colorado, due to my husband being in the military. And I started working on a lot of campaigns where I was the lead.
At which you met him at that
Yes, I met my husband.
place.
Yes.
Disney World.
Yes, I met. So if you're looking for a husband, go to Walt Disney World. Just like,
Hey, and another thing, if you're looking for an amazing spouse that you can partner with, go ahead and start following your own vision. Go ahead, start following your own plan, and who God has for you. That person's going to be at Disney World waiting for you. They're going to be in that magical place, and they're going to find you. I just had to throw that in there. But you got to be working on you.
And I love that you said that, because it's so funny. My mom always said, I never saw you married because you were such an entrepreneur. I was such a go-getter. And that's literally what I was doing. I was getting it at Disney World, working 13, 14 hours. I actually had an internship there where we had to learn also. And we were able to find each other there. And he knew from day one I had an entrepreneurship spirit. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create jobs and opportunities for everyone, even at 19 years old.
Yes, let's go back there too. Also, your decision to go to Disney World, to leave home and to take a chance, because I know that was a big chance, a big opportunity. You could have shied back, or of course did not feel the confidence or follow what you felt in your gut to do it, and stay complacent, and could have still been in Mississippi, or Atlanta, depending on where you were for Katrina. But why did you go to Disney World, and what did it take for you to get there? That's what I wanted to really talk about for a minute. Taking a chance.
So I definitely want to say this. If you're in high school, especially, get to know your guidance counselors, because if you get to know them, they will take the time to get to know you. So in my senior year of school, I really just didn't know what I wanted to do. And my guidance counselor, little old lady, she was probably like 70 years old. She just loved me. I was always in the hall, always talking, always loved to help. And she came to me and she said, I know that you're thinking about going to college. You still can go to college with this option, but I think Disney will be great for you. You have a great personality. I was in the arts, and she said, I also know that you love business. I think you should try this option also to see where it takes you. And I would definitely say in the Black community, we never heard of going to Disney World before.
Right, or internships, or,
and
apprenticeships.
Yes, and come to find out, this is something that other communities do all the time. I met people from Brazil. I met people from Africa, from Portugal, from all over that came to do this internship. And the great thing about this internship also is that inside of our apartment, they made sure everyone was from a different background, so that we were learning the history of their culture and getting to know everyone. So because when you go into the workforce, you have to learn to work with everyone. And so leaving home was very scary. I remember the day I told my mom and my stepdad, and they're like, oh no, you cannot do this. Because it was just a really scary feeling. And, coming from a community that didn't have much, my mom wanted me to go straight into college. And I told her, I said, Mama, I promise, if you let me go for 6 months, I will go to college afterwards. Well, I had every hopes of doing that. So being at Disney taught me a lot about entrepreneurship, about, really having to pave your way, having to get up in the morning. If you had hopes and dreams, even there, they had a lot of pitch competitions, different things you had to do. And if you wanted to make that happen, there was no one ringing an alarm. There was no one coming to knock at your door saying, hey, you have to make this happen. And also networking, because even in business, networking is so important. So you had a campus filled with thousands of people from all over the world. That was a great opportunity to network, get to know people, and also getting to know people at Disney World. They have over 5 locations, finding out about how do I start this entrepreneurship journey, or even just this career at Disney World.
Wow. So basically, Dominique, to sum it all up, you took a chance on educating yourself and empowering yourself, and also connecting yourself with individuals who are like-minded, or who have actually accomplished a thing in order to fulfill your entrepreneurship goal, which are additional tips that we're sharing today in this series, part 3, the purpose of making a Black girl magic. And we're talking about entrepreneurship for to empower women and girls, and just anyone that wants to make a dream come true in the areas of business. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to transition into really just empowering individuals about how you turn that vision into a thing. And so, as you know, I'm a visionary myself by heart, but a strategic planner by trade. And so we talked about writing down a thing, Dominique, and making it plain. So let's just kind of help our audience understand the steps to entrepreneurship. So the very first thing is vision. And can you share with us a particular business that you started, how you were able to come up with the vision, but then how did you start that particular business, and was it successful?
Yes, I love to talk about my subscription boxes. So with the subscription boxes, I saw once again there was a need. There was a need for a platform for girls to be able to express themselves. There was a platform for where girls needed to be able to express themselves and to be uplifted. So my sister called me one day and was telling me how her daughter was being bullied. I realized, like, wow, I've experienced this. So many other girls experienced this, and it was all about being different. So I said, what great way to show all girls that we're all different in our different ways, and how do you embrace that? So I created a box that we also had parties where you opened your box at the same time with everyone, and you're able to talk about the things inside of the box.
Love
And you're
that.
also able to have photo shoots while you just celebrating being you. And so we
Wow.
worked with military bases to be able to, we went to Lawton, Oklahoma, and we were able to create those box parties that also just turned into, when the pandemic hit a year later, it just turned into a subscription-based model, which we found out a lot of parents was like, hey, do you have an app? How else besides this one time a month can our kids be empowered? How can they have mentorship? How can they learn more? And once again, that one vision made me shift into, and more than just a vision, a need. Anytime you see a need, it doesn't always have to be nonprofit, which is great. You can also create a for-profit around there, because there's a lot of parents out there that don't mind paying. There's a lot of consumers just in general. So making sure that that is a necessity. So I was able to turn the box model into a business that was also fruitful, because there was a need for empowerment of our youth.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned, and what an amazing idea and an amazing impact that you've had with that particular business. You mentioned for-profit and nonprofit. Can you tell us really quick the difference between the two for those who are new to entrepreneurship?
So in layman's term, a nonprofit is a cause-based, I would say it's more cause-based, it's business model, but you're not being paid. it's hard for me to explain it. So with a nonprofit, you're not really being paid for your services. You get grants, you get organizations that support the cause, compared to a for-profit. It's an LLC or a C Corp or S Corp, or different, business models that you can use where you charge a fee base. And a nonprofit is more of a donation or grant base. I hope I explained
Yes.
that.
Yeah, that was absolutely perfect. And really, when you think about a nonprofit, you want to think about service. So your whole focus is how you can administer service to meet a need. And that's where the grant opportunities and things like that come in at. And, we're experts at those areas too. So, in the future, we hope to have a platform, Dominque and I and other entrepreneurship women that are around us in our circle, to help really just do some hands-on things. But let's go back to the for-profit and kind of focus on that today, because we want to focus on building wealth for families as well. So Dominque, with the for-profit, can you share what the legal steps are to gain an LLC? I know you're in the state of Texas, so could you just kind of touch on how one can get an LLC or become a C Corp or for-profit business?
Yes, so I would definitely say a couple of these are going to be across the board. Before you start your business, you have to obtain an LLC. So that's through the Secretary of State. Depending on your state, that would, the fee, it will be a sliding scale with the fee, just depending on your state. So going to your Secretary of State, searching first off to make sure no one else has that business name.
Yes, that name is critical.
And then I would also like to take a step back. Before you buy that business name that you see is free, you go and make sure no one has that domain name for your website, because somebody can own the LLC and somebody can own the domain. And
didn't think about that.
Really, really sticky and tricky. So, and then if you know that this is a business that you want to be in long term, before you once again purchase anything, I would definitely say go and get that, see if the trademark is available, because you can also, once again, start a business and somebody has the trademark, someone has the LLC, someone has the domain, and somebody else even has the EIN. So search an EIN, your domain, your LLC, and your trademark. And I do want to say, I'm not a legal professional, but what I've been finding out is that your trademark kind of trumps everything. When people purchase their trademark, they kind of can shut down, but we'll get there in a little bit. But yes, so searching the Secretary of State, obtaining that LLC, going to obtain your domain name, which a lot of times you can search GoDaddy or just domain.com to find your domain. Sometimes it doesn't even cost you more than $50 for 2 years, and sometimes for 1 year it costs about $30 to get your domain name. And nowadays, you also need to search Instagram and Facebook too.
Yes.
All of that is gonna come into one. And so once you search all of those, you start buying your LLC, then you get your EIN, you buy your domain. And then once you have all of that, I definitely would recommend you getting your trademark for your name and figuring out if you want to sell shirts, because with your trademark, it's so many different fields that you got to cover for your trademark. So.
Okay, and definitely, well, just to clarify the terms, the LLC is a limited liability corporation, and it basically just protects you from separates your business from your personal. So you want to make sure you're doing that and you're doing a business legally through your Secretary of State. Dominque, that was powerful information. You also mentioned the EIN. So the EIN is your federal employee identification number. That's sort of like your social security number for your business. Once again, separating you as a person and your personal from business is the first thing that you want to do. Yes, and for the EIN, that's so the federal EIN is so important, because as African Americans owning business, you want to make sure that you pay your taxes. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to say that you cannot start a business and just take all this cash and go live. You have to pay your taxes. That's the responsibility of being a business owner and being in this country, because that can get you in deep trouble. So just want to, plug that. as well. The next step is once you have everything established, Dominique, you do want to go get your business account and look at website and location, logistics, and things like that. So everything starts with a plan. I have a little exercise for you. I think that will help our audience really understand the elements of business. So if you're okay with it, we're going to dive into where you are right now. Once again, this is the Making of Black Girl Magic Museum. Miss Dominque Hamilton has a 7,000 square foot facility opening up in Arlington, Texas. And this is your third facility. So we're going to kind of transition really quick. I'm going to share my screen. So hold on just a moment. All righty, Dominique. So we're going to do a little exercise once again to empower our entrepreneurs and our future entrepreneurs, the Making a Black Girl Magic. Let's see if I can switch the screen here. Okay, so we're looking at one of the main exhibits for a Black Girl Magic, but behind this exhibit is the beginning and the end. So we're going to talk about where you are right now with the Arlington location, or just the exhibit not being ready. What's happening right now for you as an entrepreneur?
Yes, so we are definitely, we're in the building stages. So as you can see, everything is broke down. We went in and we kind of mocked up for our builders where every single thing is supposed to go. And we're in the stages of, would you like to talk about the permits and things like that?
Yes. Like you have your trademark going now, you're getting ready to establish a business. Where to go from there?
So absolutely. So in this, going into the third location, I definitely want to say we have learned so much. Even I want to take a second to say, even with this pink Black Girl Magic Museum exhibit over here, one of the things during this third location I've learned is about brand strategy and branding your business. And even for this location, I learned about font size, making sure if Black Girl Magic Museum is your, brand, making sure all the fonts you can see right here, you have different fonts going on, you got different lettering and things like that, but making sure you have a cohesive font, your style, your colors, even down to the pink is cohesive, because people start to recognize your brand based off those small things. Just like with McDonald's, we used to see in the arch to know, oh, that's McDonald's, and it's cohesive. And it's, the same no matter what city and what state. So that's one of the things I do want to point out, that we are taking the time with this third location to actually, work out that when you see Black Girl Magic Museum, you're used to seeing the same font and the same style. So for Arlington, we're also learning about permits, because from the other locations, we were able to sublet. We were able to do different things that didn't require a lot of permitting and getting inspectors in and things like that. So when you start a business, I would definitely say, if you're not sure on how the business is going to scale, it's great to sublet. It's great to kind of get a short-term lease, but going into your long-term lease with that longevity, making sure that when you find a location, you scout out the location, the incentives through the city that they will offer your business. If you come into the city, they will sometimes help pay for your sign that goes outside. They will help with outside the interior of outside of the building, things that even when you leave that they will benefit from. And you can find out more about grants and different things that the city have, and then also contacting your city officials to make sure that they know that you're coming, the things to do in Arlington, the things to do in your bigger city like Dallas-Fort Worth, because your city officials will also back you and help get that buzz out about your company. And so some of the things that I didn't do, just being transparent, is getting that inspector before I started building. So we came in one day and the roof was collapsing, or leaking and different things.
My goodness.
Because for one, having a business mentor is important because I literally didn't know to do those things. And so I'm literally hands-on learning that, making sure you have business insurance. We talked about the LLC, we
Oh
talked about,
yeah.
but making sure you have insurance separate from your homeowner insurance to cover your business in case that anything happens, you are covered for your business. And so as of right now, Arlington, so it's October, Arlington is paused until we get those permits for the city. And being that we're in COVID, that takes a while. So also knowing how far are they in with the permitting, knowing the exact permits that you need to be able to build. So with us, we need smaller permits because we're not building over 8 feet. So knowing those requirements that, if you have a bigger build out, you will need a longer permit.
Okay, very, very good. So this exhibit that we're looking at, the pink exhibit, this is how that exhibit will look. This was the Shreveport location of Black Girl Magic Museum. And just shout out to Southern University's Upward Bound North and South students who were so excited about visiting. So if you have young youth groups, male and female, they need to come visit Black Girl Magic Museum in Arlington, Texas, because it will totally transform their lives, as well as any women's groups and men groups that want to come out and learn about the history of Black women entrepreneurship. And then it's a selfie museum. So here, this exhibit, Brown Girls Do Dance. Can you talk about this exhibit and the purpose of the exhibit and how you want to empower individuals who actually see this exhibit?
Absolutely. So in this exhibit too, as you see, Brown Girls Do Dance, we wanted to highlight how, the history of Black women, when we talk about Debbie Allen, Misty Copeland, the different women that paved the way for
Yes.
Black girls and women to be able to dance. So, and even in our Dallas location, we have Simone Biles, the gymnast. So we just really wanted to show Black girls that when you come into a space, that there is space for you. And if not, you can create that space. And that's why we make sure we highlight, even as you see here, the Black girl ballerina, the majorette dancer, because in a lot of our communities, a lot of our girls go to school and, they're able to dance at different colleges with that background. And I always love to say that before we start dancing anywhere, we start in the church. So we wanted to the praise dancers, because, dance is literally in our DNA.
Yes, from the coast of Africa, the tribes that we were stolen from. Dance is spiritual, and the dance really describes the inner pride that we have. And so, of course, it's definitely haven't left us as a tradition when we look back that far. So excellent. That's Brown Girl Dance exhibit. Let's move on to our next exhibit here. Once again, we are building a business, Black Girl Magic Museum in Arlington, Texas, with our founder and visionary Dominque Hamilton. It's our third location. So right here in the beginning stages, Dominque, can you tell me about how important it is for an entrepreneur to really explore what product they want to give the community, and then what should be the priorities in starting that business?
So when it comes down to the product, I definitely, when you start, a lot of us want to, like we say, go big or go home. But sometimes it's go small so we can definitely know the product to give to the community. And so that's one of the things that we did. We started small so that we can put out some exhibits to see how the community reacted to those exhibits. And as you show right here with the lady with her sunglasses on, we call that the Do You Believe in Magic? When we put those up, I remember the kids coming in and like, oh my God, those are LOL dolls. And we're like, no, it's Black Girl Magic. And showing that representation, to see the smiles on people's face, on everyone's face, we knew that that was an impactful product. So our next step, anytime, you start a business, you say, how can I better this product? And so making sure that now that I know that this is something that the community wants, how can I package this in such a way that can continue to bring people into the facility? And so that's kind of what we did with the Do You Believe in Magic? Because it also gets you to think, like, what is magic? You know, when we say magic, we're talking about the magic of Black women, the resilience of us, that we can go through slavery, that we can go through our community still to this day being stripped of our history and the things that we build, kind of like with Black Wall Street being stripped down once we build up. We're able to take someone burning down our community and to rebuild. So we wanted to take that time to say, that is the reason why we're magic, because we're resilient, because most cultures
Resilience,
will be
yes.
able to build back up. And then, of course, I always say James Brown said it best, said loud, I'm Black and I'm proud.
Yes, yes, yes. And, you know, just being caught up in the Atlantic slave trade and being brought over in chains, our ancestors, and then landing in a country where they were stripped of their identity and their freedom and were instantly chattel for the slave trade industry. Resilience is definitely the foundation of the African-American community. We're talking entrepreneurship for everyone here today. So Dominque, I definitely want to kind of get our audience to understand business in regards of logistics and location. I know that you've had 3 locations already. Can you talk about that? And can you kind of tell us what some pros and cons were with starting and shutting down those locations really quick? While you're doing that, I'm going to show the final results. This is your Shreveport location here. Once again, this is my daughter. Shout out to Kyra and Aaron. They love the Black Girl Magic Museum. They walked in one way and they left out smiling and confident. Thank you so much. It was so impactful. So once again, if you have a girls group, you're listening, we want to get them into Black Girl Magic Museum. So let's talk about logistics, location, and what you experience with transition.
I would definitely say when you start a business, goes back to what Dr. Tuesday was saying with make a vision, make the vision, write the vision, make it plain, stick to the vision, unless God hid it. We started in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and even with starting here, we wanted to do more the southern region of Dallas due to, we did our market research. We saw that's where more of
market research.
We saw that that's where a lot of our demographic that we wanted to target were housed. So we decided that that's where we were going to go. But while we were doing that, we realized, oh, you can't just pop in somewhere. You have to, you know, most places want you to be there 3 to 5 years. Most people, if they got to do a build out for you, it costs money. So it's not profitable for them to just give you a space for 6 months. So that's why we decided to sublet, because we wanted to try the market out. So those are some of the logistics that we definitely looked into when we decided on our Mesquite location. When we decided on our Mesquite location, we realized that this was not in our market whatsoever. So we knew that we would have to spend more of our marketing dollars with online advertisement. We knew that that would be the way to push this brand, is making sure we did a lot of market online advertisement, and we knew we needed a publicist. So if you really believe in your brand, that's another thing that I would definitely advise. A publicist can push your brand forward quicker than you can yourself. They can bring more awareness to what you're doing. They can push it to magazines. They can push it to media. And you can definitely do that yourself. But a lot of times when you're starting a business, you don't have the bandwidth to be able to set up, create pricings, advertise, hire, train, and do everything else. So definitely knowing to outsource. So our second location was Shreveport, Louisiana. And that location kind of dropped in our laps. We were referred by someone to say, hey, you should come to Shreveport, Louisiana. They have an HBCU there. They have a great population of your demographic, which was Black women. And I will just be very honest, I didn't do my market research. I was just like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let me go. And I definitely, just being transparent, in business, you make some bad decisions, and you learn to and to bounce back. And it's okay. In business, you're going to make decisions that don't work out the way that you plan, but you also look at the good that comes out of it. That was another location we were able to come in and build, work out our logistics, learn different markets, because sometimes when you go into secondary markets, social media is not the way that a lot of secondary markets or even smaller markets find out about news. You got to get grassroots. You got to have flyers. You got to go and talk to the community leaders, the churches. It's not the same way that you would do a Dallas or a Houston or Atlanta. You got to get creative. You really gotta focus on community. And that is one of the things that made me realize that, okay, before you go into markets, how are you going to really go into the market? Because we did the media, we did the different things like that. But one of the things we left out of our list is the one true thing that keeps your business in place is grassroots marketing. Finding out who the key players are in each city before you even land. If I can tell anyone else about anything in business, it's definitely knowing your market and knowing who the who's who is in your market.
And so that's going to really require networking, which we talked about earlier, the power of networking. As a business owner, you do need to get out and get to know the industry around you, the culture around you, to determine if your product is needed. It doesn't matter if you're opening up a salon, if you're selling hair, if you're selling clothing, if you're opening up a restaurant, you mentioned with your mom down in Mississippi. Or if you have a special, unique project or a service that you want to share with the community, there are some things that you do need to think about. There are several questions that I kind of want us to tap into before we wrap up. In relation to that is, why should people consider your service? And then how would your day-to-day operations look in a business? So if you can just talk just briefly on how you were able to lay out or just learn how important it is to have a good team that can handle the day-to-day, because you can't do it alone a lot of times unless you're just, at home doing a little small home business, but you really can't do this thing alone.
Absolutely. I definitely feel that so much. If you are starting a business that you don't plan to be mom and pop, which mom and pop is great if that's what you want to do, but if you know that you want to scale your business, before you do anything, having a team is so important, because having a team and also having an understanding with your team, having guidelines, having, even a contract, having rules and regulations around what your team members are going to do. So that even going back to writing that vision includes structure of your team. And so once you have your team, before you even have your team, what do you do in everyday business? How do you run your business? What needs do you need? Do you need someone in HR? Do you need a builder? Do you need someone that is tech savvy? So being able to identify your key players and making sure and being realistic, when you start a business, a lot of Black businesses especially, we don't have the capital to hire 10 to 12 people. So when you're building out your team, making sure your team is able to tackle 2 or 3 jobs, making sure that they're well-versed or even a little versed on multiple, multiple skills. I'll just call it skill, multiple skills and
being able to multitask.
Yes. And that's definitely one of the things I would say. And then 2, making sure your team understand your vision, because some people can come in and they have their vision and you will realize that you've went so far away from the vision that you started. And then you have to take that time, your resource, your money spent, because now you went down a rabbit hole of somebody else's vision and you have to move back to what you started. I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you really did. And it is all going back to making sure you write down the vision and that it's plain so others can go run with it. Also, you talked about having HR. If you're going to bring in employees, there's some legal things, having legal guidance, having an attorney at hand to review your paperwork. I know we did a handbook and also some job descriptions. And there were some great things that you do, Dominique. You keep educating yourself. You even went it as far as working with workforce to go take classes and educate and empower yourself so you know how to deal with people. There are some federal laws like Title IX. I'm the expert at Title IX that are important, in ADA when you're bringing in employees to work with you. So you can't just go grab your family members and friends and not protect them in business, because then you'll leave yourself unprotected if you don't do that. So we're going to close this segment out with unforeseen emergencies, how in having a budget, and then how do you deal with unforeseen emergencies? And then can you tell us about, do you believe in magic, the exhibit that's up right here, what that meaning for that exhibit is all about?
Absolutely. So do we cover the unforeseen
emergencies?
Yes, unforeseen emergencies. I would definitely say before you scale out, making sure you have a reserves. That is definitely what saved us. With us opening up in Dallas, Fort Worth, we were able to build up a reserves so that in case anything happened, we were able to cover those expenses. In case when you scale, you go into a city and it don't go the way that the first city went, you have those funds in your reserves to cover your staff, because you can't tell your staff you're just not going to pay them.
Right.
You can cover.
Gotta pay folks.
Yes, you have to pay them. And then also, one of the things I did want to talk about too is making sure the contractor versus employee, you know, if you're having a short-term exhibit compared to a long-term exhibit. So also putting things in place in case emergencies come up. Who can someone else call if you're not available? Or just being able to pivot, being able to tell your market. So one of the things that I learned, never tell someone your open date unless it's already built out, it's already scaled, because you do not have control. Once you have a brick and mortar, you don't have control on if pipes burst. You don't have control on if
COVID-19 and the fact that you can't go outside.
Exactly.
Your business is off.
Exactly. You don't have control, even if you get COVID-19. So it's best to say, what I always go by is coming soon. And then as you get closer to your date, say an opening in whatever season. So if that's the summer, the fall, the spring, and then as soon as the whole building is built up, everything is in place, you pick that month, and then you can say opening in January, and then being able to push out towards that. And lastly, I definitely want to say, if anything unforeseen come up, it's business, it's life. Things are going to happen, just like in your life. Being able to bounce back, being able to say things did not go as planned. However, I wrote that vision and I made it plain. And I know if God gave me a vision, he's going to make provision for anything.
Whoa, you said that.
Yes. And knowing that you still got to keep the track, you still got to keep pushing forward, because for me with Black Girl Magic Museum, one of the things that so many people tell me is so many people's destinies lies within my hand with my company. We're very unique in the sense that we are a for-profit company, but we tether the lines of a nonprofit as far as being a service. You know, helping with a cause. We're empowering the community so that sometimes when unforeseen things happen, you still got to push forward.
Okay, excellent. And so tell us a little bit about the our exhibit. Let me see which one we were going to do. Do you believe in magic? Tell us about that, your box.
Oh, the Black Girl Magic boxes. Yes, so I love, and everyone loves the Black Girl Magic boxes. It's so funny because I get people all the time saying, oh my God, I'm in Atlanta, I'm in Minnesota, and I see your box online. And so one of the things why we wanted to create that with Black Girl Magic Museum, we talk about representation. And for so long, we have begged people to show that representation. So I said, what better way to show representation than to use something that we all know when we see, but create it for us, just to show the magic of the Black woman, the resilience, the brilliance, and also with the box, one of the things that once you get in that box, everyone has to do is step out of that box. So I always say too, when you're in the Black Girl Magic box, sometimes we have to step out of the box of our life to realize
Powerful.
past.
Powerful. And that's a great way to end this particular segment. Once again, our docuseries on the making of Black Girl Magic Museum, Arlington, Texas, is as Black women in entrepreneurship, and girls, you just have to step outside the box and go for it. Go for your dreams to ensure that they do come to pass, because you never know how that idea will impact our community. Dominque, I really appreciate you sharing today all of your secrets and then all of definitely your empowerment moments in getting us prepared for the entrepreneurship spirit. We thank you so much. This has been part 3, the purpose, the power of entrepreneurship. So we want you to go back and watch part 1 and 2, the visionary and the partners of the Black Girl Magic Museum series. And then we're coming with more. We're coming with some of your partners that you're partnering with, some of your programming that you're going to have available, and how those things could be brought to pass, and how, once again, you will impact the community. Thank you so much for being with us today. Follow this channel, Black Girl Magic, the making of, subscribe and like, of course, this video, and we will see you really soon again with more impactful information. Once again, do you believe in magic? Black Girl Magic.